Hello, everybody. Welcome to another appointment with Going Guest. But this is Rossella, and today my guest is Maike.
Hi,
How are
nice to meet
you?
you. I'm good. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for inviting me to this interview.
I am very happy to having you and having the possibility to talk to you for this interview. And this interview is going to be a little bit different than what I normally share here on YouTube. In fact, we are going to dive into your experience as a Dutch person in Singapore, as well as my experience as an Italian in the Netherlands. So, kind of sharing the different point of views also about your country.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Yeah,
Yes. So, before we go through our questions and start to sharing, I just would like you to introduce a little bit.
yeah. So my name is Maaike. I've been living in the Netherlands since I was born. I'm 51 years young now. Uh, and 2 years ago, my husband got the opportunity to move to Singapore. I had a career of 25 years in HR and strategy, three grown up kids. The oldest one is now 26, then one of 23, and one of 21. I must say it right because otherwise I get kicked my ass. For me, it was a good time to hit the pause button. I always dreamt about living abroad, so this sounded like a big and great opportunity. I was also ready to shift career, or at least end the career I was in. Singapore was never on my wish list though, so before I said yes, I wanted to go there to well view for myself. I'm not a very big city person, so initially I thought, not so sure. But I also realized if I say no now, this will probably be our only chance. So
Mhm.
we went to Singapore in September 22 for me to have a more feeling about the city, the country.
Okay.
Um, and in the first 3 days, I thought, nah, don't think
Uh,
so. But after a few days, it was growing on me. Is that the right phrase? But yeah, then I saw the opportunity. I felt the city was a bit different than the cities that I had in my mind, like New
Mhm.
York or even Amsterdam or Rotterdam. Busy, loud. Singapore is very structured and very
Mm.
easy and not a lot of noise.
Okay.
So then I thought, why not? Let's just take this opportunity to shift my life.
Yes.
So in January 23, me and my husband, so the kids stayed in the Netherlands,
Mhm.
went to Singapore, and now we're more than 2 years further. So
Okay.
yeah,
So has been at the end of the day has been a positive choice. You are happy about that.
absolutely.
Yes, and we are gonna dive a little bit on how did you find a way to integrate and everything, just in a little bit. We're gonna take it step by step. But I guess it's
Yeah,
also normal. It happens, no? That at first you are like, okay, that's not the place I chose, so how it's gonna
yeah,
be? I'm not sure about it. But then you need to let the city
absolutely.
come to you
Yeah, yeah.
and get used to a different way to live.
Yeah, be open to everything that comes onto your path and stop comparing all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. And what about you? Because you are living in the Netherlands for quite some time now.
Yes, 6 years in a row, but already with an experience in the Netherlands 12 years ago for 2 years. So in total are 8 years in the past 12. So just a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah. So I
But
assume you choose for the Netherlands to be living
the
in.
second time I moved, I really chose to come here, like knowing exactly what I had to face, now why I wanted to come here. First time I was young, I was 26, and then
Yeah.
I was actually living in Spain for a work experience there, and I
Okay.
met people who were either from the Netherlands or living in the Netherlands already. And they
Yeah.
were talking about this country, Rotterdam specifically, such a great place. And I was curious because I knew basically nothing about the Netherlands. I just knew about, Marco van Basten, Van Gogh, other painters. That's what I knew, just the very basic. So I was like, yeah, why not? I'm curious. I can go. And worst case scenario, I go back to Italy. Let's see what happens. The first impact, though, wasn't that easy because, well, I didn't have a lot of work experience coming from the south of
Mm,
Italy. Even though you are 26, actually, you don't have that high level of experience or high level
no.
jobs that can really make you, go the extra mile in a northern country. So you really need to
Yeah,
start from scratch.
yeah,
And it was a little bit difficult because, as I said, I didn't know anything, so I wasn't prepared. When I got the opportunity to work for a big company in Italy again, then I took it. But I took it with the idea I go and then I come back, also because the company was
amazing.
Dutch, so the head office was in London. So I was like, well, I can go and then I grow there a little bit and I might come back soon. It didn't happen exactly that way, but I managed. 6 years ago, I was like, okay, 5 years in Italy again have been super long for me, also because I was in the north, which is very different than the south of Italy. So it's like almost living into different country for some points of view. And then I was like, I'm missing the Netherlands. I was coming here every time that I could because I still had friends to visit, etc. So I decided to come back, and that was the best choice I made in my life, I guess, because
Amazing.
it comes with a lot of up and down. It's normal. I mean, I miss my family. There are things that I
Of course.
cannot really get used, that are very different. The cultural shock is always behind the corner, no? Always. But I still love it. This country gave me, it's a little bit hard to say, but this country gave me much more than my own country. So
Oh,
I
really?
feel that I belong here. I like it, and so the struggle are not that important to the point, oh, that's not the place for me. There are things that I don't like. Wonderland doesn't exist.
Wonderland doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Yeah,
indeed, indeed.
yeah,
And as you say, my secret was like not comparing. People are always surprised when I say, "Oh yeah, I'm Italian. I come from Sicily and I live in the Netherlands." They are like, "What are you doing in this rainy
yeah,
country?" Blah blah
yeah,
blah.
yeah.
And they ask how did I adapt? And the first thing indeed is not comparing. There is no reason to.
Do you consider yourself an expat or an immigrant?
I'm an immigrant. I use
Yeah,
the expat word just because it's on social media is more easy.
yeah, yeah,
But I'm 100% an immigrant. I moved. I
yeah.
don't have in my mind the idea to go back. And
No.
I live here. I bought my house here. I'm trying to integrate every day more, learning the language and so on and so forward.
I think that's also a different feeling, maybe. That's my assumption. Because I consider myself as an expat or an expat spouse. And when I think of home, I think of the Netherlands and not of Singapore. I feel at home, but this is not my home.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, I mean, the definition is there, right? An expat is
Yeah.
somebody that does an experience for a certain amount of
Temporary.
time. So you
Yeah.
need to integrate, but you also know that that adventure is going to end at a certain point for a reason or the other.
Exactly.
It's not because you don't like the place, just because it was meant to last 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10. I mean, and then it changes. So you don't need to, even if you feel at home, you don't need to create home there.
No, you don't
Uh,
fully you don't
yeah.
fully the country.
Indeed, but
Yeah.
yeah, the moment you consider yourself an immigrant, then that's the thing. There is not really an end. It can end tomorrow
Of
anyway, but
course.
it's not
Yeah.
planned.
No.
So
Yeah.
you try to live a little bit more as a local, maybe.
It's funny that you say that people ask you why would you leave Italy like the tropical
Always,
paradise. That came in my mind as well. So yeah, that's just what
always.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it goes with priorities, It depends what are your priorities in life and also how you can handle differences. There are some people who suffer a lot in whole countries. I mean, Nothing to judge her. I mean, at the beginning, it was hard for me to don't see the sun for weeks. It was
Yeah,
hard because I
yeah,
wasn't used to that.
yeah.
Rainy, 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 so dark so early during the day. It took me a little bit of time to adjust, but then in the list of priority, that was not the high, so I could manage. For some other people, it goes very high, so they cannot manage, and that's fine.
Funny thing is that a lot of Dutch people that I met here in Singapore, now they are living in Singapore, they are so critical about Holland.
Of course.
Yeah, and hearing you say like I love the Netherlands, this feels like home. I'm curious what makes it home for you.
I guess it's mainly a feeling. So when I came here, I felt I could be myself. Compared to my country, in this case, I had to compare it. It's way less judgmental.
Oh, really?
And yes, so of course, as for everything, it is not always 100% what I'm saying, but it's my experience, right? And maybe it's not everywhere. It also depends where do you live. I live in a big city that is
Yeah,
very international.
yeah,
If my first experience would be in a small village in the
yeah.
country, they might have been completely different, But I
Agree.
I came to Rotterdam, and people are much more open-minded. They are much more tolerant, at least, of uh, different background, different cultures. I mean, as long as you don't bother me, do whatever you want. That's
Yeah,
more or less the way of thinking. If you want to go out in your pajama or with high heels, nobody's gonna judge you. And this is like a stupid example, but this is true for many other things also more important. So
yeah.
in this sense, I felt like, oh, that's something that I like. And then it's very international. I'm Italian. I'm proud to be Italian, no matter what happened in the country. I'm still proud to be Italian, and I love my culture. At the same time, I always felt that it was too close, too small word for me to just talk one language, to just stay with people that have exactly the same background or very similar, the same culture. So the fact that here every day I can share experience with people that are completely different, then I have a completely different life that I had, coming from different culture, different background, different experience,
Yeah,
different
yeah,
languages.
yeah.
That makes me feel at home
Home here.
already. So how it is it in Singapore? It is easy for expats moving there and find their way there, or
No,
it's
not
hard?
so. No, you if you can come to Singapore, you must have a job up
Mm,
front because otherwise you cannot get a working permit here. So
mm,
the entry regulation is very strict. So in
okay.
Singapore, they just want expats who can really bring something into the country that is needed here. So locals first is here, well, very much into the system, which I can relate to. I mean, I understand why that is the case.
Yeah.
But it also means that if you are an expat and you come to Singapore for your job and you come with your family and with a spouse, a lot of people think they could try to find a job in Singapore as
Mm,
well, but a lot of them are frustrated because that doesn't really succeed.
okay.
Um, but coming to Singapore with no job and just try to find your way here is something that is not possible at all. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's very close in the sense, and it's also kind of a little bit maybe the place for people already with a certain level of
Yeah,
job,
absolutely.
probably.
Yeah, and more sea level even, especially for European, and there are regulations for different kinds of people. Like Chinese people can come here more easy and get a working permit or a PR,
Mm.
even a permanent residentship, way more easy than people from Europe, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Regulation is very strict, and the price you have to pay for things as well. For example, if you want to buy your property as an expat, you have to pay for a stamp duty of
Okay.
60%. 60%, that's huge. Yeah.
Oh
And
gosh, yes.
yeah,
Yes.
and the housing prices are enormous. Like we lived in
Yeah.
a We lived in an apartment in a condo. They say here condominium condo. They make
Yeah.
it short. And that's like a gated community with facilities like a gym and
Mm-hmm.
swimming pool. You have an apartment, and it was an old, not very maintained apartment with one big bedroom and three very little bedrooms and a big
Okay.
balcony and like a living room about 25 square meters, I think, and it was listed for 3.8 million Singapore dollars. So that's about 3 million euro. And then as an expat, if you want to buy that, you have to pay 60% of stamp duty. So yeah. So
Okay, now
just
I understand. Now I
yeah,
understand why last time when we talked, you told me, oh, the Netherlands expensive. You don't know what you are talking about.
yeah,
That's quite crazy. Yeah. So
yeah.
it's not only that, let's say, Singapore then is open to people that already have a kind of high level of job, but it must be like that. Otherwise, you cannot really survive, probably.
Afford
Okay.
it. No, no. And the policy is very well, like future proof in the sense that you can be here if you can contribute to the economy on the highest level. But
Mm-hmm.
when that stops, you go out again. So it's not a city that is very open for people to really stay here in Singapore
Hmm.
as a foreigner. So again, for Chinese people, it's a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but for expats, international expats, it's not that easy.
Okay.
So yeah, and the bureaucracy. Well, your employer has to file for permits and things like that. It's very very well organized, I must say. If you want to register here, when you have your permit, you can easily register. You can do a lot of things online, but
Okay.
typically enough, there are also things that you still have to do in paper. For example, I moved in a new apartment last week,
Mm-hmm.
and every condo has their own regulation.
Okay.
And here you have to register in a form before bulky items can be delivered at your property. So I didn't really know that, and I could only do that the morning when the bulky items would come because I bought some
Of
stuff.
course.
So I went to the management office and registered, and then they say, "Well, now you have to pay a deposit of $1,000."
Okay.
Okay, why? Yeah, why is that? Yeah, because if people scratch the wall
Yeah.
or break something, we have to deposit some. But how can I pay that? Well, you have to write a check. Is it a check?
A
I,
check?
I
Oh
don't
gosh. Are we back in the 80s?
I don't
Wow.
have checks. Can you not just take my credit card and reserve an amount? No, that's not
Yeah.
possible. So I could pay $1,000 via online
Bank transfer?
bank transfer, but then it will take like 1 to 2 months to get it back.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And that's also Singapore. Don't try to understand, don't try to discuss,
Mm-hmm.
because the people you are talking with, they just do. They don't know why, and the process is
Okay.
just set in place, and there's no flexibility at all.
At all.
Got
Okay.
rules. This is what I have been told. This is how it should go. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. So that's a good tip for people. There are people there listening and they are about to move to Singapore for a reason or the other. Guys, no discussion. It is what it is. You
No
just accept it
discussion.
and go
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a big difference. In the Netherlands, we try to, I don't know if that's the same in Italy, but in the
Mm-hmm.
Netherlands, my experience is that you can, discuss and like put some reason into
Yeah.
your discussion and try to be a bit flexible. But here, no way.
Yeah. This is very funny for me because compared to Italy, I find the Dutch mentality a little bit less flexible in this kind of thing. So
I
when
can
it's
understand.
about admin, it's like, well, that's the rule. Of course, you can talk, you can discuss, etc. But mainly compared to Italy, people are a little bit more strict with the rules, no? While
Yeah,
well, Italy is quite famous for not being that strict with the rules, which
that's true.
that
Yeah,
come with advantages, but a lot of
comes
disadvantages
with a
as well.
price also. Yeah.
But I mean, the southern you go, the easiest is to negotiate, right? It's more part of the culture. So the difference is there. But yeah, you can discuss, as sometimes you have people that can, like being a little bit more open-minded and say like, oh, let's see if there is something else that I can do because there is the rule, but maybe there are also some exception at the rule. And normally the people that come in your house to help you for moving or something, they are actually aware. It's not that they are just doing the thing because they are paid for that and that's it. So
Yeah,
there is a bit
yeah,
more of help. Bureaucracy here is quite easy, I believe, especially if you come from Europe. If you come from
yeah,
Europe, the Netherlands is super easy. So
yeah,
you
yeah,
don't have, basically you don't need paper. You just come here, make an appointment to register, and that's it. The difficulties now is to find the apartment where to register, but it's not
yeah,
related to bureaucracy, it's just related to the house market that is crazy.
yeah.
Um,
Availability. Yeah.
yeah.
Like opening a bank account, was that easy for you in the
It's
Netherlands?
super easy. Basically, what you need to have is your BSN. The BSN is your identification number, so
Yeah,
burger service number, as you know. So whenever you have that, and you mainly get that when you register at the municipality to an Dutch address. But let's say that if you stay here for less than 4 months, you can also have the BSN via another register. It's a little bit of a different thing. We don't need to dive into it also because there are several videos about that, but you get the BSN. So you get the BSN. Once you have that, basically all the doors open. So with that
yeah,
number, you make an appointment to the bank and just get your bank account in 10 minutes.
yeah,
Online, you file all the forms to have the health insurance. You choose which one you want, and you get the card at home in 1 week or something like that. Even though it's better to do it straight away, you have 3 months time to do that. So the key of everything is the BSN, and the BSN, of course, also give you the possibility to work. So
work.
without
Yeah,
that, you cannot get a contract.
yeah.
When you come from outside Europe, is a little bit more difficult because indeed it is better if you come already with a job. So your job can be your sponsor for the visa, and everything gets way easier in this sense because you don't have to do anything. They just do
Yeah.
everything that is needed. Or it's possible to move here without a job, or even if you are coming from a country that is not European.
Hmm.
It's gonna be a little bit harder because then you had to prove that you can, sustain yourself. So there are
Yeah,
a bit more requirements, money-wise as well. You need to find a different way to have the visa. It can be, for example, starting your own business, or maybe you have somebody who is already in the country that can be your sponsor. So it's a little bit tricky, but still
yeah,
doable. For Americans, it's quite easy to come
yeah,
compared for other countries because there are some agreements that
yeah,
exist, so it makes it a little bit easy and less expensive. If you work in IT, you're gonna get a job straight away, before
yeah,
coming. That's
exactly.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
So sustainability is another area where
yeah,
you can easily find a
yeah,
job, and you might not need to speak Dutch. So you can easily find a job from abroad already. Everything is online, and everything is also translated into English. So my
yeah, yeah,
recommendation is, instead of going on Facebook groups, just go to the official websites because you are going to find all the info. And it's very clear, like
yeah.
really so clear that yeah, you can actually do it yourself.
Yeah, very easy. Well, that's the plus in Singapore as well because the official language is English. So
Okay.
everything is in English as well. And what is very typical is that as an expat spouse, you get an ID card as well, but on your ID cards it states the words dependent.
Oh,
So you are literally dependent, and that comes with some obstacles as well. So at the first bank where my husband wanted an account, I
yeah.
couldn't get an account for myself. So I'm not
Okay.
allowed to do a lot of things on my own because I have no status here except from being a
Your
dependent.
husband. Okay. Oh
So
God.
yeah, so if for example, if he said, I'm done with it, I want to split, I lose my status to be here
Yes.
in Singapore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is a similarities. I guess that works for everybody everywhere when you need a visa. So if you have a person that is your sponsor, the moment you split up, well, then you
yeah,
don't have a sponsor anymore, so you lose your rights. And same thing goes with the job. So if you lose your
yeah,
job, even
yeah,
though if you lose your job, you have like a kind of a period where you can apply for other positions. So there are regulation in that. But yeah, I guess this is like a universal reality
yeah,
that if you have a person that is basically your sponsor, well,
yeah,
then if you split up, you lose everything. So it's
yeah.
people be careful.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And you don't really realize that up front. And
Yeah.
luckily, in my situation, that's not an issue at all. But I have
Yes.
heard sad stories about people
Yeah.
in that position. And that's something that you should be more aware of before saying yes to this.
Absolutely. Yeah, because in your case, you moved together with your husband who was
Yeah,
already your husband. So it's a different situation. But there are people who
yeah,
will be moved to a country for the person that they met.
absolutely.
And that
Yeah,
person is going to be the sponsor. But then life changed completely the moment you live in the same country together.
yeah,
So it can be risky. So yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What about the locals? How it is to integrate with locals in Singapore? Is this possible?
Yeah, good question. I think it is possible, but you have to really make an effort to do that. And I think, and in most countries, I think that's the case. So I'm curious how you see that in the Netherlands, that especially in Singapore, which is a big international country city, because it's both,
Yes.
Singapore is a city and a country. Um, there are so many expats that people are also a bit tired of seeing
Mm.
people coming and going. So it's not that all the doors are automatically open. Um, I think when you work in Singapore, like my husband works with a lot of Singaporean, that goes very easy and very smooth. But from my point of view, well, it doesn't go automatically because you live somewhere else. Most Singaporean don't live in condos. Well,
Mm.
yeah, I think I can say that. They live in public housing or they own a house by themselves. Of course, I think in our previous condo, I think about 30%, maybe 40% was Singaporean.
Okay.
They lead a different life. So up front, I thought, I'm not going to stay into the expat bubble and the Dutch bubble.
Yes.
But finally, looking back to the last 2 years, I see myself more in that bubble as well than I would have expected.
Yeah.
I cannot say that people are not open. I think it's yeah, from both sides. It's just easier to be with people who live the same life as you. For example, we love to eat out. So do
Mm-hmm.
Singaporeans, of course. But we love to sit outside on the terrace with a van. The Singaporean are going to sit inside with the aircon on 18 degrees. So just little things like that,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yes.
make
Yeah.
it more work or more effort or more out of your, normal lifestyle choices to do. Uh, and people in Singapore are also very introvert, if I can say in
Mm-hmm.
general. So they
Yeah.
are with themselves, on themselves, even more than in the Netherlands. Everybody is on the smartphone, sitting in the MRT, walking even,
Yeah.
standing on the escalator. Everybody's just
The phone.
watch movies or series or shows
Okay. Wow.
while traveling or commuting. So it's not that easy to make content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can
long
imagine.
answer. And what about how do you feel that in the Netherlands?
Well, it's this is like such a it could be such a long conversation, because it
Yeah,
really every time that you talk to somebody who moved here, also depending on where they are from, the point of view
yeah,
can change. Generally speaking, people say that Dutch people are cold, and that is a
Yeah,
nightmare to get in touch with locals. I don't have that experience, but I understand why people say that. And the point
yeah,
is, as you said, sometimes you feel that people are much more in their life, and as locals, they don't have the same needs of expats to make new friends. They have
yeah,
already their friends, maybe from a lifetime. They have their colleagues, they have their family. So it's like there are so many people that come and go, come and go. So it's like, why do I have to put an effort in learning about you, in getting in touch with you? Maybe become friends and then you leave. So
yeah,
I get it. And also culturally, in the Netherlands, people value a lot their time, and
yeah,
respect comes with timing. Like, I don't waste your time, you don't waste mine. It's not to be cold, it's to be respectful. So that's
yeah,
what I learned about Dutch people until now, what I believe it is, or partially it is. So putting the effort to know each other is something that need to have some basic. Out of my experience, I can say that the moment I start to learn the language was also easier, because imagine you are in a group of Dutch people and everybody has to speak English because of you. It's not that they don't want to, also because I would say that 80% of the people, especially in big cities, they all speak English with no issues, but they are not used to that in their common life. So
yeah,
either they are already in touch with expats all the time, they do speak their language, so it comes less natural to have to
yeah,
deal with every aspect of their life speaking a different language, which instead comes natural to us because we choose to move. So we choose to live a life with a different language. Generally speaking, as you said, it is easier to get in that bubble, expat bubble. Uh, you need to put a lot of effort, but it's doable. There are differences. The sitting outside, I really recognize it.
yeah.
There has
Yeah, and I
been
think
one
people
week of
Dutch,
sun in the Netherlands. I
yeah,
didn't see one person sitting inside, and I am
yeah.
getting to that too. Better with a blanket outside, but outside.
I think time changed things in the Netherlands as well. I grew up in the south of the Netherlands, and when I
Okay.
was young, it was very normal to just come at the back door.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make any appointments. Just,
Yes.
hey, how are you? Are you in for a cup of
Yes.
coffee? Yes or no? So okay as well. I moved when I was about 20 to Utrecht,
Uh-huh.
and so more in the center, more city life. And since then, now I have to admit as well that if people come to my door unannounced, I am annoyed. I cannot handle that anymore, and I
Yeah.
hate it, but that's just really the case. And if people
Absolutely.
especially come around dinner time, I mean, especially in Italy, you would say, sure, it's dinner time,
Yeah.
just
Take a seat.
join. Yeah, 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 yeah. But now we cannot handle that anymore, and I
Yeah.
think that's sad, but that's
Yeah.
just the way it is. Yeah,
Yes, indeed. Also, this is a huge thing, making appointment basically for
yeah,
everything. So here life is very scheduled. From this time to this time, and these days I go to the
yeah,
gym, I see the friend, I have a coffee. We were talking earlier about that. Some people really make appointment for next 3 months. Oh yeah, we are
yeah,
gonna meet. When can you? With the agendas, it's just a coffee, guys. Let's make it a little bit more
yeah,
flexible, also spontaneous.
yeah.
Spontaneity is something that I miss coming from the South
I can completely
in
understand.
in the
Yeah,
social life. So it also makes it difficult because if I'm new here and I don't know anybody and I meet Dutch people at work and I ask like, hey, after work, let's have a beer, and they never can because they already have scheduled all their life, then it's gonna be hard for you to ask again and again. Then you go to the expat community who has the same need of you of finding people, and then there is always much more flexibility. So it's kind of a
yeah,
loop, but the effort has to come from you. And again, depending also where you live, learning the
yeah.
language is it's a lot,
Important.
not only for the language, but also because learning the language, you also understand a little bit better the culture. So
True,
you
true.
don't get annoyed the way they answer because you also understand that they are translating from their language. So in English, it sounds rude. But if
Yeah,
you understand that in Dutch, then it's not rude, it's just direct. And this
it's
is
Dutch.
different. It's
But
Dutch.
I must say, in Singapore, they speak English, but they have an accent as well, or a dialect even, and they call it Singlish. And Singlish is maybe even more rude than Dutch. So you
Oh,
just shorten everything. So, for example, if you go to the supermarket and you're going to pay, they say, need back.
okay. Just like that.
So, not do you need a bag?
Need
And if
back.
you then answer, no, thank you, I have my bag with me, no need, I don't need a
Yeah.
bag, and they just look at you like, what are you saying? You just
Just say
say,
no.
no need, no need, no need.
Okay, so I'm
In the
gonna show
beginning,
this part of the interview to all the people that complain about the Dutch directness.
so in the beginning, I thought, why don't you speak proper English? Your language is English. And then my husband said, and I felt so stupid and arrogant. He said, well, this is their country, it's their language. It's like telling somebody from Friesland that he doesn't speak Nederlands. No, because he's Fries. This is his language.
Yes, that is
So
their language. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
and yeah,
So
and for instance, for all the people that are listening, Fries is the second official language in the Netherlands. It's not English, it's Fries. So
exactly.
English, we are just lucky that everybody speaks it, but it's
Yeah.
not an official language.
So even for me, I try to learn some small Singlish sentences, and we organize a workshop as well. Singlish, it's very fun.
I read something about the Singlish indeed in your website. Now we dive in that part because yeah, you said earlier as an expat spouse for you was a little bit also more difficult to find your path and your way. So then you
Yeah,
decide to start this journey as an entrepreneur, right? So
yeah,
founding this Singapore and you.
yeah.
And all the links of the things that we are talking about are going to be in the description of the video so people can just click and see and get in contact, get in touch if they need, of course. Um,
Nice.
so, what about that? And what about the struggles, the difficulties that you found
Yeah,
in your
yeah.
journey as
Like I said,
entrepreneur?
I had a career of 25 years in HR and strategy, and I was ready to revalue. What is the second part, or the second part of my working life will be like. I was ready to do something else. So for me, it was an easy way out to let go my job and go to Singapore with my husband. And the first 3 months, I thought, let's address this as a sabbatical. So I
Hmm.
addressed myself to join that time and not be thinking about what about me? What am I going to do? And that sounded like very ideal because I was working really hard. I had 3 growing up kids, a busy household. My husband was commuting between England
Oh.
and the Netherlands for the last 5 years. So I was ready to push the pause button. But as easy and as delightful that sound, I hated it the first few months because I didn't know how to just be.
And just like that, we're gonna end the first part of the interview. Subscribe to the channel to don't miss when we publish the second part. Bye!